MVP stands for minimum viable product. Right now, the viability of it has gone somewhere, right?
Number of startups in 2000, the number was 20k. Today, there are 150 million tech startups. The risks that you had to overcome in 2000s were technical feasibility and product quality.
Right.
Today, the risks are market attention and adoption. The number of ads an average individual would come across ranged between 500 to 1600. So those were the number of ads you would encounter. Can you guess the number today? Hello guys, welcome back to the BNB show. Now finally we have a name and I can introduce it like that. We're calling it the Branding and Building Show. And just when you're about to end this, you'll know why exactly branding and building and why in that sequence.
Exactly.
So Neel, today we're going to talk about something crazy and triggering for me, to be very honest. So the topic for today actually it originates from 2 to 3 Medium articles that we have been curating after Sit Like an Artist. This actually made sense that how do we do the next episode. And the lessons from Still Like an Artist is that there were a lot of lessons. One that really hit me hard was, are you a hoarder or a curator?
Exactly.
And then we're like, fuck it, we want to start curating as things that we actually want to steal from. And we came across 2 to 3 articles that we are going to refer today, and that's why you have our third additional member in the screen with us. We have to give it a name at any given point, but
Sure.
yeah, we have Steve with us as well, but long live OG.
Yeah.
Today the idea is we're going to talk about minimum viable product, MVP. So that's the topic. We'll talk about minimum viable product and how it's irrelevant now. So it's a really good framework. It's a really good philosophy, but now in the space we are in, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And if it doesn't make sense, if you're starting out or if you're already in the space, if you're interested in tech or in digital products whatsoever, if not MVP, what else?
Exactly.
Yes.
And of course, we'll dive into why part of it as well.
Yes. 2018 in my master's, I had the term minimum viable product. And then in 2020, when I was shifting careers, I was like, okay, why not get deep into it? So I read the book Lean Startup. That's where Eric Rice, this amazing guy, the book is good, to be very honest. He introduces the topic, the framework of minimum viable product. So the idea is to be able to understand minimum viable product. It's important that we take take this path down the memory lane.
Of course.
Where we start with why minimum viable product in the first place came into existence.
Right.
So, and you know it more, to be very honest, because you have been in the space for a long time. And there was a certain way software was understood to people. There was a certain way product development used to happen before the whole, the era of 2010, 2014 happened, where slowly and eventually technology started becoming more adaptable and commoditized. But before that, there was this very sequential way of developing a software or building a product. And there were advantages to it, but as time evolved, it became more disadvantageous. So can you just share your thoughts on the waterfall methodology of starting from point A to going from point B, point A being the idea, point B being the launch?
Right. So my again, like I also started career in tech back in 2014 or so.
So, around the same time. Yeah.
So it's not that far, but so when Lean Startup came up, I was already there.
Yes.
That's right. But the waterfall model and all, I also got to study only. But as far as what I've seen so far or I've read so far, the kind of model which was around for 10 years before Lean Startup came up was like you start building project version 1 and it took probably months, not months,
500
probably
years.
So a lot of time is was going into
Yeah.
coming up with a product, and
Mm.
then you probably launch it to the public.
Mm.
And of course there was not a lot of uh, people or the market around it, so very few people would probably look at it, use it,
Mm.
and give feedback to it.
Yeah.
And the product that goes to the market, and the people who are behind the product would realize that this is not something that
Works.
it is working well.
Yeah.
For the use case that we are building for.
Yeah.
So that was the model. So for last 10 years, last first 10 years of the technology adoption.
Yeah.
After that, the agile comes into picture, the lean methodology,
Yeah.
where people have started moving from that to what we call MVP.
Yes.
Where they started understanding, like, you have to have data in place
Mm.
in the journey of building.
Yeah.
Right, and you can definitely talk more on that side of things.
Yeah.
As well.
Talking theoretically, so you have an idea and you have a market. So there's a produce and there's a market.
Right.
And the road between is to develop, so to design and develop, and then take that produce to the market to sell it. And then it was all up, the so whole build up was to make sure that the launch is huge enough so that you have created a good hype. So it was more about the fact that you have a good product, which is also driven by gut. And of course there's some research at that point they would do to be able to then take to the market, launch, and then realize that holy shit, no one is buying it.
Right.
So the data part was not part of, like, learning from the market was not earlier in the process.
Right.
So the teams would have to wait for 12 to 16 to 18 months to then go and splash a lot of money into making fancy launch campaigns hit or successful, and to then realize that no one is picking that product off the shelf.
And we were very early in that
Yes.
process as well. As a technology landscape, we were very early.
Yeah. So data was not a part of the entire waterfall framework.
Right.
Coming to 2014, so 2012, the book came out, and Eric said that, okay, the bubble has busted. There is no clear way of how do you integrate data, like learning from the customers first and into the product development lifecycle or product development in general. And here it is. I introduce you a framework, a methodology, which is called build, measure, learn. So it's a loop. It's that you have an idea, you end up building it, you have certain build it, you launch it, while you're launching it, of course you have made certain assumptions about what is it that will be a clear indication of the fact that people either like it or people don't. And those are the things you measure. Based on that feedback from the market, the signal from the market, you have learned whether to continue in this direction or whether to pivot, like to go in a different direction. Why? Because the signal from the market is that no, we don't like it.
Right.
So he said that build, measure, learn is a good loop. So take an idea, you have built something really crappy. It should be just good enough. You launch it, see what the market tells you, take that data, feed it back into the system, and repeat the loop as much as possible.
Right.
And damn, it blew into the startup ecosystem. And in the tech space, it is actually popular. Everyone kind of it was a holy grail at that point. I don't know if that's the story of how minimum viable product came into existence. But the scenarios today are different. Absolutely. It is kind of similar. The framework really worked as to how AI is working today for us. So at that point in 2014, I guess the technology space was exploding, and anything digital applications kind of became mainstream or started to become mainstream. And it was a very it was a phase of exploration, to be honest. Like, where adoption was not a problem. The only problem was whether we can build it or not.
Right.
So that was the risk at that point, that do we have good developers, people who can understand a bit of the market and code that shit and throw it out in the market, and then adoption would happen. Because that is what we're doing with AI right now, right? Because anything AI, and we are just sticking to it. But is it the same for any other digital application today? Probably not. So your perspective on everything we've
absolutely
I talked so far,
I mean, going in the right direction, like something that was broken before, it was for a particular time, and then you shift gears and you try to build something which is substantially improved and is for the world to explore. But again, when you introduce that, you'll find a couple of things here and there that it's not falling in the place, and you again, like the cycle keeps on repeating. And I think that is what is happening as well. In the digital space, we are probably, at least we are, since I don't know, I mean, we are, when we say we are like a very deep into the ocean system, in the ecosystem. But I mean, it is saturated to a point where it is very commoditized. And like it is very easy to build something and to launch something, not for the AI perspective or the domain of AI, but the rest of the things are pretty common and pretty straightforward as well. So I mean, that is the world we are living in right now.
Fast forward to today, 2024, no one gives a shit about minimum viable scrappy product anymore. And why that has happened, we have some stats. And of course, at that point early on, we were into an era of mass production, where you could literally have a straight comparison between two products which were identical, and the decision making was prices and features. To now, we have moved into an era of mass customization. We want experiences that are personalized to us, things that are built for us. Why? Because we are information rich and time poor. So now there's a lot of shit you have to go through. And the things that are going to stand out to you is actually specifically designed for you, and it actually is kind of waving at you, hey, this is both things, right? You're looking for it, and that thing has to be designed or has to be marketed, communicated in that way, which says, hey, you're looking for me, and I am that product which is specifically designed for you. That is what we are craving, to be very honest. We want to look at the stories of who's the founder, what kind of tribe I'll be associated with if I buy this product, why in the first place I should be buying that product. So we have access to all of that information. And just looking at some stats which we pulled up from another article, so all of this are going to be linked in the show notes, but and I make sure that you go through it, because it is going to be fucking amazing to go through the stats. So the first one is amazing. Number of startups in 2000, it was 20k. The number was 20k. Today there are 150 million tech startups.
150 million.
Wow. And risks that you had to overcome in 2000s were technical feasibility and product quality. So the two fundamental questions: can I build it, and is it usable? Today the risks are market attention and adoption. So the questions are: can I get anyone to notice a product? And can I get anyone to buy a product?
Makes a lot of sense.
And this one is the most amazing when we were talking about, hey, this is designed for you and this is for you. Is that in early 2000s, the number of ads an average individual would come across ranged between 500 to 1600. So those were the number of ads you would encounter. Can you guess the number today?
Oh no, I mean, tons and tons of things. Like every third story is an ad. If we put it that way.
Today, the number of ads that an individual come across in an average day ranges from 6,000 to 10,000.
6,000. Oh my god. We are just talking about paid ads.
Yes, we are talking about paid ads, and that is the shift. So we have come from that to this, and if you come from that to this, which is a bit of less to a lot more. Minimum viable product. The framework is now just a philosophy. It sounds really good. On paper, it is a good lecture, just like this is.
Yeah.
But in
won't
real
cut
life, that thing doesn't apply. Not
won't.
anymore.
It will not. It wouldn't cut it. For
Yes. Yes. And if it won't cut it,
sure.
what does make sense? Do you have anything that you would want to add to as to why is it fucking irrelevant?
So one of the fundamental thing is, like, while you are building for somebody, MVP stands for minimum viable product. Right now the viability of it has gone somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Just imagine one thing that you probably think as an idea, and you go out and research. You wouldn't find any idea which is, like, something that at least 200 people wouldn't have attempted
Doing
so far.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Attempted building it. So it's crazy, right? Like, everything that you can think of,
Yes.
someone would have thought, and not just thought, they would have done something really amazing in that space, built that, tried to distribute it. They have done something for sure.
Yeah.
So the landscape is very saturated in that sense. So if you're just looking for another product which is barely viable,
Me too.
exactly.
Yeah.
That wouldn't cut it.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
And not just product, as in, like, if you just want to copy each and everything, product, marketing, segment, then it's not gonna help
Yeah.
you anymore. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have something which is very specific, very direct, speaks to your audience directly. Like, hey, this is
Yeah.
for example, I'm the product. Hi, Harshil. You have to look at me. You have to check me out.
Yeah.
If it is not that, it wouldn't make sense.
Yes.
And that's where I think the whole marketing adoption, and even the people who have successfully done it once, twice, thrice, fourth time, if they are attempting, they would have to rethink the whole thing.
Yes.
They wouldn't be able to do the same thing that they have done so far to really be successful in this market. And that's where I feel like the shift should happen, and shift is happening for sure. But let's just define it for the people so that they understand it better.
Yes. So the reason Steve is with us is because if MVP is not something that cuts the chase today, what
Right.
does is a framework called minimum valuable experience.
Right.
So it starts like this, that most individuals, especially founders, us in general in the tech space, have this light bulb moment.
Right.
You have this calling from the divine. You all of a sudden come across a problem,
Yeah.
and then your gut tells you that, damn, I am that right person who can solve this problem, and I can offer a digital solution to this problem.
Right.
That is a light bulb moment. And what it kind of slowly takes us into, the article I'm talking about, is that unfortunately that is not how reality is.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who start with that divine source of inspiration, that they have encountered a problem and then there's a direct solution to it, end up failing. And so if you look at the stats, 90% of the startups actually fail, and they fail not because of following some shitty framework, or a lot of things could go wrong, but what the article refers to is that a lack of product market fit.
Yeah.
And to be able to reach a product market fit, you have to rethink the problem in the first place. Absolutely. You have to rethink how you approach solutioning in the first place.
Right.
And highlight for me from the article is the reference to Thomas Alva Edison.
Yes.
So in schools we were taught that he is one of the greatest inventors of all time. In fact, he has invented something which is most crucial. It is amongst, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you look at the bottom tier, which is physiological needs, his invention is the core essentials of human existence.
Absolutely.
The light bulb, right? That is what Edison gave us.
Right.
But was it actually a problem that he solved? According to the New
Was
York,
he?
yes,
Sorry.
sorry, go on.
Was he an innovator or an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out. Yeah. When you look at a solution that requires modifications, this modifications comes in three different formats.
Right.
The idea is that actually he did not invent the bulb.
Right.
He was someone who believed that it's not about the problems in the first place. It's about there are existing solutions which have existed for a long time, and these are potentially viable solutions.
Yeah.
But they now need modifications.
Absolutely.
Just like your fucking houses, just like your cell phones, just like
everything.
your clothes. You're wearing something for a long time, you've been holding something for a long time, you're dressing a certain way, your hair has been messy for a long time, and it just requires modification.
Yeah.
And that's the simple idea that led him to invent the bulb. What he did was, there were existing patents, there were existing solutions. He just knew that this solution requires significant modifications.
Right.
And when you look at a solution that requires modifications, this modifications comes in three different formats.
Right.
It could be making a solution more accessible, more affordable, or more durable.
Right. Absolutely.
It could be all.
It could be all.
It could be all.
Yeah.
But what Edison did is he made the solution more accessible,
scalable,
and scalable as well, of course. And yes, that is it. And to quote him, that is from the guy himself. He said that my so-called inventions already existed in environments. I've created nothing. Nobody does.
That's beautiful.
And
nobody does.
That's it, guys. I mean, that's the whole point. Your thoughts? Yeah,
I mean, if you look at now, if you take this framework and go back and think, you'll probably see this everywhere.
Yes.
Like you mentioned about clothes. You mentioned about other things, right?
Smartphones, yes.
Exactly.
Let's talk smartphones.
Let's talk smartphones. Yeah. iPhone is coming in September. What will they have? Is it gonna be something very robotic? Probably not. They'll just have one thing sorted very well. That other companies might have done that already.
Yeah.
They'll just execute it in the best possible way.
10x better. 10x better.
10x better, and they'll just sell it for another, I don't know, $1,000 more maybe.
Yeah. No one gives a shit about ideas, to be very honest. It's execution that matters. Now, we've talked about finding the solution that requires exponential modification or modification. How do you go about doing it? The author of this article introduces a framework called ACT. A stands for audience, C stands for communication, and T stands for touch points.
Right.
You have to identify an audience.
That is also.
You have to communicate it to them,
right.
And then you have to identify the touch points. You have to identify how you're going to communicate. This is all the identification, the learning bit that happens even before identifying the solution that you want to significantly improve.
Right.
And I guess, Neel, you have been through this.
Right.
Knowingly or unknowingly, you have been there.
Absolutely. And everything else as well. Like you sometimes, I mean, that one line that comes to my mind is, you can always connect the dots going backward.
That is also something from the Still Like an Artisan. That is something Steve Jobs, again.
Oh, yeah. Steve
he said, don't worry about connecting the dots. You just start creating and it will all connect. The dots will connect because it's a part of you. Everything that you're going to create is a part of you. Everything that you get pulled towards. You're the type of music you like, the type of clothes you're interested in the type of personalities you interact with. Everything kind of connects and it comes out in your creation, to be very honest.
That's really nice way to put it. And that's what I was saying, like, everything that I've been doing, there was no structure to it in a way, but I always had that in mind. What is the core requirement for that particular
audience
time or the phase I was in? That is something that was sorted. Just like I said in our previous conversations as well, like, while starting on the journey of being a founder and starting a digital, or let's say SaaS startup, uh, it was very essential for me to figure out what not to do, which I have learned so far. And then to be able to come out of those distractions and execute on the right kind of things was very important in a way. And I exactly did that. And probably when I look at the article you shared with me, I went through the ACT framework, and I was like, yeah, this is something that actually was happening. And ACT, which is audience, communication, and touch points, is essentially the whole thing is packaged around customer centricity and audience. So the more you learn about them, the more you will be able to deliver to the pain points or the solution or whatever. So the first part of anything in the journey of building should be the exploration part of this thing, like the audience part of it. And I have done that through interacting with the communities. We are probably, almost everybody is at least in a couple of communities around, right? Communities where they see different problems, and they can learn more about those problems or the existing solutions which are not cutting it, and they can come up with their own set of ideas that let's create something which can solve for this problems, or solve for the solution to make it a little better than what it was previously. And while you are communicating in that audience, you would understand a lot more about how big of a pain it is for them. Because if you go about, or like if you really go with the idea of MVP, you would probably believe that this is the problem space I'll be building for, and this is the solution that my gut is saying that market may need it.
But and since it's technology, people will come buying, looking for it.
Exactly. But it's not going to be the case anymore. So you'd always have to start from the audience. And we talked extensively on building the audience as well. Second part is communication, where communication is whom you are speaking to, and how. That is very important, and how, of course. So I think you spoke about it earlier as well, and I'd like you to throw some light on that part.
If you look communication, it is mostly, while we were talking, it was mostly about what Rework told us. And what Jason Fried and DHS says is that sound like you when you're communicating. And what you also said is that if I'm speaking with my own authentic self, it is going to resonate with people who are the exact human design type like me.
Even if you just read it out. If you just read out the whole article, it would be different than the article itself.
Yes, exactly. I can't simply copy it as well, and the way, so like people buy from people. And when we talk association right now, when we're talking mass customization and wanting to buy from someone who's someone they truly want to believe in. And how do you do that? Is only if you communicate the way you are. If you try to present a different picture, glorify it in a different fucking way, which it's not true to you, it is not going to hit the right chords with your audience.
Absolutely.
So communicating is really important, and sounding like your true authentic self is really important, because first your audience is people like you. And now when you're communicating, if you're going to sound very professional, today we are going to talk about the 10 most important things that you want to be doing in the life to build a fucking successful career. fuck, I made that thing up, but to be very honest, nobody is going to be interested in this. What is your take of what touch points mean?
Touch points, as in, so everything boils down to understanding your audience better, and the way you do it is understanding how they operate, what are their pain points, how big of a pain they have, where do they have it, uh, what kind of motivations they have, what goals they have with it. All of those sort of gives you an insights into what sort of problems are more painful for them, and you basically try to orchestrate or try to make a better solution for them.
Yeah.
Touch points is basically, if somebody is going to encounter this pain in their morning time, and if you are showing or coming in front of them in the evening time, that's not gonna match. So
Fuck that.
That's what I feel like is the touch point part of it.
Yes, your experience with ACT, because I think you've done a lot of this with Sync Signature,
Right.
and I guess you spent, like, you haven't built an MVP to be very honest with that, the whole applying that framework, but I have seen you doing that for 2 to 3 to 4 months, where we were talking so many different ideas. We talked about doing asynchronous design sprints, I remember. We talked about some solution in the HR space. We talked about some onboarding shit. And we talk, every time we talk, you had a different space in mind. Just take us through that.
Like, this was 3 to 4 months of work going into, so the first and every time when we were doing that, every time I was also making sure that the term founder market fit was right in the place. And I, being the founder myself, I wanted to make sure that wherever I'm going, these three things apply very well. One is my experience so far, or the career that I have had so far. Second one is the skill set that I have, and the third one is the passion.
Yeah.
So I was constantly checking if any idea is taking this parameters or not. That is the first layer of filtration for me.
Yeah.
After that, I was going into the market side of things, right? If I'm excited about this kind of market or not. The kind of audience, for example, I may not be suitable for somebody who is in real estate.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really resonate with a lot of people who probably don't understand a lot of tech. So that's not my sweet spot. If I were to come up with a solution in the real estate industry, it would have been terrible, because I would have built the best of the best product, but I wouldn't be able to communicate.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be able to resonate with the audience. So that's where. So the first filtration was, am I the right founder to build in this industry, or in this market? Not even problem, not even solution, nothing. That was the first filter. And then after that, we were taking up some of the industry segments where we were exploring the solutions. Why solutions? Now I'm getting it. Like, we were not supposed to look into the problems. We were supposed to look into solutions that had additional problems, or solutions that needed modifications.
Yes.
That's what we did. And that's how, sort of, we came up with that. And then simultaneously, I was also looking into communities being the biggest part of this. Audience research, I would say, has been really insightful. Like, you wouldn't be able to get this sort of insights. And that's the beauty, right? If you were to do this earlier in the build, measure, learn pattern, you would have to start with build, because there are not a lot of solutions available that required a lot of modifications.
Yes.
But now the times are different. So the thing has reverse, and we have to have that learning phase in front, and then start from there. Measure about what your learnings are as well. And then keep going into that cycle, and then eventually
start building
even you have a lot of tools and techniques and everything that you can test these things or the solutions without even building it. So the phase we are in right now has a lot of potential, lot of resources available to make this thing happen. So yeah, I mean that's the whole experience. Like ACT framework was absolutely, like when I look back at it, we really applied it, and it was something that really stick.
Yeah, and it sticks, and it stuck. How it's the most interesting part of it, because I know you since a long time, and historically I know you've done uh, paid acquisition campaigns, you've run ad campaigns, you've invested a lot in SEO and trying to nail organic traffic and all of that. I wouldn't say bullshit, it is really important. SEO is the best game, but this time out you are able to manage to pull a lot of people to get at least looking at your product.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the risks that you have to solve for in 2024, is that
Right.
can I put this in front of the people, and can this people be interested in buying?
Right.
And this time no paid acquisition, no ad campaigns, no SEO.
Absolutely. Just the understanding of the power of community.
Yeah.
And adding value where it is required.
Exactly.
So that you get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
That's where we are doing with this podcast as well. Right? It's pure juice after juice after juice. if I
Juice for us to start with as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we are exchanging this valuable information all the time. And if this goes out and people really, even if some of the things will be very repeatable,
Yes.
and I would want that to happen.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you say people buys from people, if that is stuck in somebody's head, they will probably think it through lens, or through that lens all the time. And that's where things start to happen, right?
To be very honest,
Because we've been following a lot of people, like really great people at that point in time, who are at least 10x 100x right now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be the same people if we wouldn't have followed them, right?
Yes.
That's the
And
power.
I was recollecting everything. Yesterday, it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I don't remember, but I was having this conversation and I said that I don't remember products and what their primary or secondary colors are, what their screens look like, what their onboardings are. It's just that someone I truly resonate with or resonated with, I ended up buying the product.
Absolutely. Happens
It
all
was
the time.
because of someone, not that it was a product. I started using a product and then I ended up knowing that certain someone who sold it to me. Like product in itself, to be very honest, for in the last 3 to 4 to 5 years, I remember it's mostly people who have managed to sell a product to me.
Absolutely.
And not the other way around. So yes, so minimum valuable experience, we've talked about minimum, so valuable. Let's talk value. Is of course the solution itself is already valuable, it's viable, you just need modification across 3 different parameters. Either it could be made more affordable, more accessible, or more durable.
Right.
So now you have act, you have a value proposition which you have to communicate really well, you have to position yourself in that space really well. And then comes the experience.
Absolutely.
For this context, experience design is just making sure that every touch points of your products have at least some emotional resonance with what your characteristics or attributes are. And it's not about you. Once someone is inside the system that you've designed, it's about them.
Right.
Because now you as a persona, so Harshil or Neel, step back, but there is still a layer of you that's interacting with them.
Absolutely.
That is act plus value proposition plus experience design is minimum valuable experience.
Right. And even in experience, I can give you 2-3 examples as well, which is like, for example, on Father's Day, Swiggy sort of pulled out something. When you open Swiggy app, you can just see that somebody's, or I don't know. There was a campaign, whole campaign around. People
Okay.
were getting so emotional. They were
Yeah.
sharing it on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. It
Yeah.
was all over that. So that's the person.
It is actually
part
the
of it.
right brain. Yeah, it is the right
Exactly.
right brain thought. It is like you're ensure if what is left brain, right brain is mostly more wired towards
Creatives.
yes, creatives, or mostly people who are more into emotion awakening side of things, who are more experience and expression oriented. And left brain or left brain minded people are mostly people who are more towards strategy, more analytical,
Rational
like to play with
thinking.
numbers, and yes, want to add that rational bit. So it's mostly a bridge. But now what has happened is that we are in that phase where most of us would like to be on the right side of things.
Right.
So I guess it's a good summary. And to like of the article, you
Time
can't
don't
hear
bound
it.
us.
Yeah. But it has been amazing, and if you
But some enlightening moments in between as well. Like even if we go through it, prepare for it, everything, but something
happens
over here
during the act of creation itself, that
Yeah.
we end up talking something, and every time it's like fuck, this
Oh,
becomes an episode
yeah.
itself. Okay, so guys, that was ripping about minimum viable product and going to minimum valuable experience. That's about it from our end.
Yeah.
Have a good one, folks. Neil, where can people find you online?
On LinkedIn, on X, and Product Hunt. I've been trying to be active on all of them. But
Okay.
let's see. I mean, right now these are the three platforms, and of
Okay.
course, listen to this podcast. Give us the right kind of suggestions, comments. I'm sure you would come across a lot of things which are repeatable, and we are going to keep it purposefully because that's what will uh, give you the recipe of how to live your life further and sort of actually become somebody like us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. How
Okay.
about you? Where can people find you?
As of right now, accidentally I ended up buying a domain, which is harshilpatel.com. I was buying something else. I didn't realize that I bought the domain. A couple of days ago, I found it in my email that you bought the domain. I was looking for something that we want. I am not going to throw out the name, or else people might end up buying it.
Right.
So
we'll end up paying thousands of dollars.
yeah.
We don't want it.
So I accidentally bought it. I didn't know, to be very honest, I didn't know the payment went through. So very soon on harshilpatel.com. Until then, again, in yours or my wife's LinkedIn's comment sections.
Oh, that's a nice outro, I would say.
So yeah, that's why. Or no, I'm available on LinkedIn. You can search up Harshil Patel. Okay.
All right.
Until then.